This is Jake Pazicki, and this is an ACT Science Research Summary question. So this question is one of those questions that's asking about the experimental design of this experiment. And this will happen about once every 5 questions, about 20% of the time, when a question is not about the data in the charts, but about the experiment as its own, the experiments itself. And so this question specifically is asking us about the experiment 2, and is asking which of the following conditions should be identified and kept constant in each test tube. So first we should read that question, read the answers. So either the concentration of each pyrocatechol solution, the temperature of each pyrocatechol solution, the original pH of each pyrocatechol solution, or all of the above. So looking at experiment 2, and remember this experiment, we have a bunch of different test tubes. Each one of these lines is a test tube. A bunch of different test tubes set up with pyrocatechol solution in them, and we're adding different concentrations of phenolthirea and potato juice to that pyrocatechol to see how different amounts of these two chemicals affect the color of the pyrocatechol solution. So that's what we're experimenting with here in experiment 2. And so as we should always do when we have a question like this, we should go through each of our answer choices and either validate or eliminate them. So if we're looking at the first one, it's asking should we identify and keep constant the original concentration of each pyrocatechol solution. And that is a definite yes. And if you're confused about that, you should remember that the whole point of the whole design of this experiment is to change the levels of phenolthirea and potato juice and mix changing levels of those two solutions with the pyrocatechols, with a constant level of pyrocatechol. We're trying to see how, as we change these two things, how the color changes when mixed with this concentration of pyrocatechol. Now, if we change the concentration of the pyrocatechol, then it will confuse the data with different levels of phenolthirea and potato juice having more drastic or diminished effects on the color of the solution, not because of the chemical properties, which is what we're testing, but because we've changed the amount of pyrocatechol they're being mixed with in the first place. And especially if we don't know what that concentration of pyrocatechol is, if we're not keeping track of that, then this data will become very useless to us because we won't actually know how the different concentrations of this will affect the color change because we don't know how much we're mixing it with in the first place. So definite yes for answer choice A. So now for answer choice B, we're looking at the temperature of each pyrocatechol solution, and we actually have a whole experiment. Experiment 1 is completely dedicated to measuring how changing temperatures of pyrocatechol affect the temperature change. And so we know that the temperature changes to the color, and we're not trying to test the temperature here. We're just trying to test the concentrations of these two things. And so if we change the color, it'll have effects in our experiment that will make it unobvious what these effects are. And so we're trying to, basically in every experiment, we're trying to limit the number of factors that affect the data just to the ones that we're looking to understand. So we're definitely going to keep trying to identify that and keep that constant. Then our last one, the original pH of each pyrocatechol solution. And we know, again, we have experiment 3, which is testing the changing of the pH and how that affects color. And sorry, the table 3 is a little cut off here. But for the same reasons as answer choice B, if we change the pH, it'll change the color, which will affect our ability to understand how this changes the color. And so we're going to need to keep that constant so that we're not confusing our data for experiment 2. And so the answer is D. All of the above should be identified and kept.